Host, for the first hour today, I'm joined by Russell Quirk, a talk show host, social media influencer, and political commentator. Hi Russell, how are you? Russell, I'm doing well, thanks. Host, glad to hear. Now, before we dive into the current migrant situation, which has reached new levels of chaos, let's take a look at what's been happening recently. Just this past Friday and Saturday, over 600 migrants crossed the channel illegally. The problem continues to escalate, and it's clear that the government's response has been ineffective, allowing the situation to worsen. Let's start with Labour's recent decision to cancel the Rwanda deportation plan. What do you make of that? Russell, well, it was a joke from the start. Starmer cancelled the scheme before it even had a chance to get going. Whether you agree with it or not, he pulled the plug on it before it had the opportunity to address the crisis. It's clear that Labour has no real plan, just more empty promises about breaking up smuggling gangs and stopping the flow of migrants. They're talking about investing £500 million into contracts with private companies to run two major facilities for migrants, one in Dover, and another at an old airfield in Manston, which can supposedly accommodate 1,600 people at a time. But even with these efforts, they're completely ignoring the fact that they won't be able to control the sheer number of migrants coming in. Host, exactly. And Labour's approach seems to reflect a lack of belief in their own policies. They keep talking about smashing the smuggling gangs, but most people can see through this rhetoric. It's fantasy to think that dismantling these gangs will solve the crisis. Russell, it's not even just fantasy, it's an outright lie. Starmer and Cooper know they can't tackle this issue because they're not even trying. Their strategy isn't about reducing illegal immigration, it's about allowing it to continue unchecked, while pretending to have control over it. On top of that, they've shown no willingness to return migrants to France or stop them from crossing the channel in the first place. The truth is, they don't have the political will, and they're completely ignoring the fact that we're dealing with around 27,000 illegal migrants this year alone, with the number expected to rise to 40,000 by the year's end. Host, and it's not just the numbers. Most of these migrants are young men, many of whom we know nothing about. They have no identification, and some have criminal backgrounds. Yet the government continues to provide them with free housing, food, and even £45 a week in spending money. Russell, exactly. Why wouldn't they want to come here? We're offering them more benefits than they could ever hope for in France. It's utterly insane. Meanwhile, people in this country are struggling to get basic support, and we're prioritizing resources for those arriving illegally. There's also a sinister side to this. I believe Labour wants to eventually give these migrants the right to vote, just like in the US. They want to create a voter base that will support them in the future. They also have this naive belief that immigration of all kinds is beneficial to the economy, which simply isn't true. These aren't skilled workers or professionals, they're a burden on our welfare, housing, and healthcare systems. Host, and the public has had enough. We've been through years of government after government failing to address this issue. Labour isn't offering anything different from the Conservatives, and it's clear that neither party has the courage to tackle illegal immigration head-on. Russell, right. Labour, especially with its left-wing MPs, is soft on this issue. Some even go as far as to protest in favour of opening the borders entirely, with no consideration for the strain on public services or the cultural and social impact. Meanwhile, our policies aren't deterring migrants, they're encouraging them. We're making it more attractive for them to come here by offering better conditions than they could get elsewhere. It's madness. Host, you're absolutely right. We've even seen recent cases of criminals slipping through the system, rapists and murderers, who are only found out after they've committed more crimes here. It's terrifying that we don't know who many of these people are. Russell, and the scariest part is, the government seems uninterested in stopping it. Instead of finding real solutions, they're focused on housing them for the next decade. Why aren't we sending them back? Why aren't we arresting them on arrival and deporting them immediately? The situation is spiraling out of control. The public is fed up, and rightly so. It's time for the government to take a firm stand and stop this madness before it's too late.